In order. First up tonight, we have proclamation for Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service, Monday, January 20th of 2025. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. devoted his life to advancing equality, social justice, and opportunity for all, and challenged all Americans to participate in the never-ending work of building a more perfect union. And whereas Dr. King's teachings can continue to guide and inspire us in addressing challenges in our communities, and whereas the King Holiday and Service Act, enacted in 1994, designated the King Holiday as a National Day of Volunteer Service, and charged the Corporation for National and Community Service with leading this effort. And whereas since 1994, millions of Americans have been inspired by the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to serve their neighbors and communities on the King Holiday. And whereas serving on the King Holiday is an appropriate way to honor Dr. King, meet local and national needs, bring citizens together, and strengthen our communities and nation. And whereas the King Day of Service is the only federal holiday commemorated as a National Day of Service and offers an opportunity for Americans to give back to their communities on the holiday and make it an ongoing commitment to service throughout the year. And whereas King Day of Service projects are being organized by a wide range of nonprofit and community organizations, educational institutions, public agencies, private businesses, and other organizations across the nation. And now, therefore, the Jackson County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim Monday, January 20th, 2025, as Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and commend its observation through participation in a day of service. Adopted the 7th day of January of 2025. Is there a motion to approve this proclamation?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Is anyone here to accept the proclamation tonight? Okay. We'll move forward. First up on the docket tonight is the approval of the agenda. Everyone should have a copy of it, and it should be up on the screen. If there are no needs for amendments, I'll seek a motion for approval.
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Next up, we have our approval of the minutes from our regular meeting on December 17th. This was held at the, I just had a Smoky Mountain Elementary School. If there are no changes to this meeting, to these minutes, I'll seek a motion for approval.
Make a motion.
And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Next up, for administrative reports, I have really nothing to report other than I'm glad it's 2025. A lot of positive things are going to happen this year, and look forward to seeing those come to fruition. Do any other commissioners have anything to report tonight?
I do not.
Over to Mr. King for the county manager's report.
It's going to bring you up to speed on a few projects. One, we're going to have the grand opening and the ribbon cutting ceremony on January 25th, 2025 for the Jackson County Recreation Aquatic Center. The Center for Domestic Peace, the foundation, elevator shaft, and all of the steel structure are now complete. They're starting working on the roof system. Should be in the works. We are engaged with NCDOT for an encroachment agreement for the new driveway, and also looking at additional paving on that same street. We are in the bidding process for the Cashers Glenville Recreation Area. We did not get, we were kind of piecing that back out with another bid process. That'll be coming up. The Whittier Qualla Park, that one is in the contract phase. We are working with them to solidify the contract to get that project start going. The Department of Aging, we are working with Cope Architecture, who was the original designer of the building, to rework some of the issues that we're having. It is structurally we're working on some structural issues, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get that going. But it should be bid out end of this month or first of next. Canada Fire Department, we're finishing up on the drawings for that, and we'll be bringing that back to you when we talk about our capital plan for next year. Same thing with the Justice Center and the administration building.
Canada Fire Department?
It's basically a brand new um, addition and then renovation of the remainder of the building.
What about the, landscape behind it?
The landscape behind it, it's all inclusive.
Is-
Yeah.
When I say landscape, I mean, everybody understands, it's not the beautifying of it, water runs toward the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was referring to.
No, we're taking care of that. That's one of the reasons that's caused some of the issues. So we're reworking a lot of that through this process.
How's their water issue gonna be resolved?
Well, we're sloping it. It'll be sloped away from the building.
Water is where they can just flush the urinals when they want to.
You're talking about the downstairs piece? Yeah, it's all going to be worked out. Yeah, there's plenty of water. I think it were just some issues with the downstairs part of it.
Okay, that wasn't what I understood, okay.
The fairground project, we are starting that this month. So the demolition of 445 square feet of that building will be occurring in the middle of the month. And then we'll be starting the process of erecting the new building. Greenway project, we're still working through those processes with that, and acquiring or finishing up a couple additions to some of the land that we've got. And then we've got several of the school projects, which we'll have more to come on that. So, and that's all I've got.
Went by the Center for Domestic Peace today. It's looking nice. Going on quick. If you turn right at Lowe's, at that light, you go.
Up behind social services.
Yeah.
That's not that old business. That's one of the reasons we just built, not doing it.
When was Department of Aging built? Does anybody know? 8? About 15, 16 years ago.
And what was wrong with it?
15 years.
What was wrong with it?
It's got some issues with the poles, basically, have rotting at the bases. So we're having to work through some issues with that.
Over in water?
No, they're not in water.
They're
It's just
aren't they
rotted.
like standing, kind of round, look like telephone poles, kind of rustic looking, but they at the bottom meet concrete and just where that.
Any concrete?
They probably should have been.
They're about to eat it all.
Yeah. For public comment tonight, first up we have Amber Albert. Miss Albert.
Hi. Good evening. Just go?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. My name is Amber Albert. I'm the director of the Mountain Heritage Center at Western Carolina University. It's a teaching museum and center for scholarship that focuses on Southwestern Appalachia. I'm coming today to bring your attention to America's 250th anniversary, which is 2026. You could debate and take it out a few years, right, depending on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, but the big year will be 2026. And the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources is putting resources toward this anniversary, this commemoration. An event or battle does not have to have taken place in our county, but there is grant funding available to counties for programming. So if we wanted to focus more on the Revolutionary Home Front or the relationship with the Cherokee at that time, as contentious as it was, there are opportunities for multiple groups within Jackson County, both to benefit from the grant funds, but also the free shared marketing with the state of North Carolina. We can't let Haywood and Transylvania be the only two westernmost counties to take advantage. And right now they do have county committees. So I'm bringing it to your attention because there does have to be a resolution from the county commissioners. I'm happy to provide a template from the state to the appropriate folks for a future commissioners meeting. The grant deadline, just so you know, is February 28th. So we want to be sure, should Jackson County choose to participate, that we're part of that. What else? I've so far gotten some Western faculty to sign on, Cashiers Historical, Cashiers Library, Silva Economic Director, and that's just an initial round. The Fontana Library, I'm not going to speak for them. Okay, thumbs up, are also interested in participating. And so should the grant funding be secured by the county, it would really go toward educational programming that could either be standalone or complement one of the parades the city or the county already do. So
Is this a process that goes on for the entire year, or does it center around the 4th, or
does it center around what?
the 4th of July, or?
Nope, the entire year. So it would really be up to the county. You could make it blowout 4th of July, but certainly you could spread it out as well.
Sorry?
So I will follow up with additional materials.
Yes, please.
Is that the best course of action?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would reach out to Angie and just kind of send over that material, and we can get it through before the February deadline.
Great. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Miss Deborah Smith. Good evening.
Good evening. I want to thank the commissioners for the opportunity to speak tonight, and in particular thank Commissioner Smith for nominating me to serve on the Fontana Regional Library Board. My credentials are: I have a BA in English from the University of North Carolina at Wilmington, a master's in social work from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I taught English in a middle school for 5.5 years. Love middle schoolers. I worked for a little more than 30 years as a clinical social worker. Most of those years were spent as a counselor, assistant director, and director of the internal and external employee assistance programs for Duke University and Duke University Medical Center. I served as Southern Regional Representative for the Professional Association of Employee Assistance Providers, and I was on the National Committee for Education and Training. As a former teacher and a former mental health professional, I believe that I can add value to discussions of important issues that will be facing the library in the future. It would be an honor, it's been an honor to be nominated, and it would be an honor to serve the people of Jackson County as well as the people of Macon and Swain counties. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Smith. Moving on now to new business, and Ms. Fox with our 25-26 budget calendar.
A new year.
New year. It's your favorite time of the year.
Yeah, it is. Okay, tonight we would like to set the budget calendar. I'll go over in February the 18th, proposing the budget retreat at the Burrell Building at Southwestern Community College. That would begin at 10 a.m. and last as long as we need that day. But we do have a regular scheduled meeting that night at 6:30. February 27th, the managers will meet with departments and other offices for the preliminary meeting, and that will incorporate the things that we discussed at the 18th meeting. March 1st, the nonprofit grant applications will be disseminated. All the requests from all the departments would be due in on March 24th. The nonprofit grant applications in on March 31st. On April 1st, we would present a summary of all the new requests to the commissioners during that work session. April 14th through April 25th, we will hold our meetings with all the department heads and agencies to go over their requests. We'll have a week to get everything together from the meetings that we have. And then on May 5th, we'll finalize the recommendations for the presentation. On May 6th, at the work session, we'll go over the capital projects and updates on all the new requests. May the 20th, the manager will present the recommended budget to the commissioners. May the 22nd, we would start our special call budget work sessions for the board to hear any of the safety, education, nonprofits, or other departments that would need to be prepared to present to the board. We would hold the budget hearing on June 3rd, right prior to, at 6 o'clock at the regular meeting that night. Then on June 5th and 6th, we'll have special call meetings where the board can go over the recommendations and make any changes they wish. And hopefully on June 17th, we'll have the budget adopted. Any questions on the schedule?
Board. This is the best time of year.
It is.
Busy time.
Busy time.
Busy time. Okay,
It looks great. Thank you so much.
okay, and we'll put that on the next agenda
Okay.
for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up tonight, we have appointments. First up is the Fontana Regional Library Board of Trustees. And tonight we have 2 open spots as part of our new agreement. And our first is Ms. Smith, who just spoke. Lots of recommendations in here from wonderful people. Is there a motion to approve Ms. Smith to the board?
A motion to approve Ms. Smith to the FRL board.
I'll second. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Jennings.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Hooper.
Yes.
Chairman Letson.
Yes. Do we have another?
Yeah. She's there, but she's already on the Jackson County Library Board.
Okay, it was Ms. Jennings.
Yes.
Okay. Does she need to?
We can just, she's already been.
She's been nominated? Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve Ms. Jennings, Ms. Marva Jennings to the Fontana Regional Library Board of Trustees?
I'll second.
We have to have a motion.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve, sorry.
And
I'll
a
second it.
Come on.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Hooper.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Jennings. Chairman Letson.
Yes. Next up, we have the Road Naming Board. And Zeb Holland has recommended appointing Todd Dillard, Angelina Murray, and Fred Grasty. Is there a motion to approve all 3 of these to the Road Naming Board?
These are just reappointments, right? They're
Reappointments.
currently on there.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve those.
Second. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Hooper. Chairman Letson.
Yes. With no further business, we do have a need for closed session tonight for real property and legal. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. All right. Coming out of closed session, there was no decisions made. Are there any questions from the press tonight, Logan? All right. With no further business, I'll seek a motion for adjournment of our regular session. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. All right. Let's go ahead and call our regular our work session into order. First up tonight, we have Jay Spiro from Friends Jackson County Greenways. Mr. Spiro, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
So I know some of you, not all of you, but just to introduce myself, Jay Spiro. I'm on the board of Friends of the Jackson County Greenways. I was an attorney here for many years and also involved in real estate now, and a board member of this organization. I want to tell you a little bit about us and just introduce ourselves, answer any questions that you might have about what we're doing and what we anticipate in the future. So it's always good to look. I think it's always good to sort of know where you came from before you know where you're going. And I think most of you know the history of the Jackson County Greenway. You know, you could take it back to the 1800s and Black Rock Lumber Company, you know, building a railroad up to East LaPorte. And that's what has created the shelf in the Tuckasegee that the Greenway is on right now. And that's been a huge benefit to the county to have that there. And it continues on all the way up to East LaPorte. So it sort of gives us room if we ever wanted to continue the Greenway. But I think it was 2013, a lot of work had been done prior to that, but that's when construction started on the Tuckasegee Greenway there between Locust Creek and Cullowhee. And that Greenway was completed, the first part of the Greenway was completed in 2016. The ribbon cutting was held then. Have all of y'all been on the Greenway? It's a mile long, 2 miles round trip. Of course, it goes from the primary entrance there at the bridge down to the end of Monteith Gap Road, and is about to go quite a bit further, which will be wonderful. I was on with several other people in our group. I was on a task force and a committee that the county had formed to kind of be an advisory group and an advocate group for the Greenway for many years. And we discovered it was valuable, but we discovered that we could accomplish a lot more sort of outside of the official structure of the county government. Many other Greenways have a Friends of group, some kind of group that's a separate organization that basically parallels and facilitates and assists the municipality or the county with the greenways that they have. And Franklin, for instance, the Little Tennessee River Greenway, I think it's about 3.5 miles long. They have a they call it FROG, Friends of the Greenway organization. Brevard is working on a new greenway that's going to go all the way to Hendersonville. They were really lucky. They had a rail line that was 19 miles long, and they acquired that, and it's going to be an incredible. I don't know if y'all have been down to Greenville, South Carolina. They have the Swamp Rabbit Trail, which is even longer than that. But the advantage of an organization, a nonprofit, is that it opens up certain opportunities for funding and grants, and creates a lot more flexibility in terms of the legal structure. So a group of us got together and just decided to set up a 501c3, a charitable company that basically could help and parallel and facilitate the county's efforts to expand the Greenway and enhance the Greenway. And that's what the Friends of the Jackson County Greenways are. It's not just the Tuckasegee Greenway. There's other greenways in the county that are being worked on. Y'all are working on one in Whittier right now, and there's one in Cashers that we're actually helping out with as well to try to connect up the charter school to the crossroads. And there'll be others. There's one in Webster. But the primary one, the priority right now, and the most visible one, is the Tuckasegee Greenway. So that's why I mentioned it in particular. I've got some brochures just so you'll have information. There's a QR code on that too that you can go on our website. This is like just a quick outline. And we're just there. We meet monthly. We're doing a lot of work. We're already working on some grants. And we work very closely with the rec department. You know, our only reason for being there, being in existence, is to partner with Jackson County government and the citizens of Jackson County to try to enhance the Greenway, expand the Greenway, help fund things for county government. And so that's our reason for being there. We're working on, as I said, some grants and some other things right now, and we're, you know, always welcome any input from y'all on things that we could partner with you on. So, any questions? Basically, tonight I just wanted to introduce us and let you know we're there.
How many members, contributing members do you have on your board?
Our board
Whether it's volunteer time?
is like 8 or 9 that we have active board members. We meet monthly, typically either at the rec department or at the health science building at Western. We'll be meeting with Curve in a joint meeting in Cullowhee in 2 weeks, actually next month, to talk about ways that we can partner, excuse me, with the Curve board. I'm just getting over a cold. I'm actually a member of that board too, and I'm kind of a liaison between the two groups. But as you know, Curve is another nonprofit that is there to help revitalize Old Cullowhee. So, and our dream is to have a river park there, which we introduced ourselves last month, as a terminus to that end of the Greenway. So that's kind of the partnership that we're hoping to form. It's exciting. Y'all have done a lot. The prior board did quite a bit. We've seen a lot of movement recently, as you know, to expand the Greenway. We're going from a mile to probably 2.5 to 3 miles very soon, hopefully. So things have fallen into place, and it's been very exciting. So we were, like our last meeting, we were prioritizing, and we spent quite a bit of time sort of prioritizing the things that we want to, that we see as the priorities for funding. And we're going to get together with Michael and talk about, you know, make sure we're on the same page that what the county needs is what we're able to provide. But it would be things like sort of amenities like benches and you know, we'll need bathrooms at some point. We'll need certainly signage, enhanced signage, and better signage. And there's lots of other things, frankly, that we could add to enhance the Greenway. So we look forward to working with you.
It's a work in progress, and I think it's a good
Will
one.
the greenways ever connect? Is that what the deal was with the one? They're gonna connect them?
Ideally, yeah. Either with sidewalks,
But not this time, is what I'm saying, like with the purchase of that
with
land?
purchase of the land, we should be close, aren't we? We connect to all the way down to property-wise to Cullowhee, Old Cullowhee.
We're about, 3/4 of a mile, Mike?
Yeah.
Give another copy of these.
Sure.
You can get them-
And there's some challenges to that. You know, obviously, there's some challenges
You can just lay them there. Commissioner Bryson, he's out today, so, thank you.
that we haven't had on the sections that we're talking about that we've had in the past. Each section is going to be a little different, but you know, the challenge right now is going along Ledbetter Road and figuring out how that could be accomplished, which is going to be it's going to take a creative solution, but I'm confident that problem can be solved, but because there's just not a lot of room between the road, which is a very busy road, and the river. But my grandmother used to say, where there's a will, there's a way. So that's sometimes, but there's a way to find money sometimes if that's the case. So that's where we are on that. And of course, they're working on that roundabout in that construction project. There'll be a sidewalk going up on campus as part of that project So we're already connecting into Western's campus as we speak. Western's already paid for that. And we've come a long way, and there's not a lot of property left to acquire. Frankly, the ones that are there are mostly small pieces. So.
Yeah, most of the property we've acquired has been larger chunks, and it's been a big win.
Yeah, that Maturo piece was especially gratifying because it was 17 acres and got us a long way up. And then, of course, Riverwalk Apartments had already pledged their easement over there. They had to for that section. So just those two properties right there got us another mile. Economic development is a big, people don't think of greenways and other sort of amenities that the county has or towns have as economic development tools, but they really are. And what is our latest numbers on the greenways at 100,000 or something in terms of usage? We're still working on doing counters and stuff, but
For each trail counter, roughly through the end of September, it was right at 90,000 unique.
I mean, that's some of those are repeat, obviously, but that's a huge impact. And companies will look at amenities and sort of, outdoor recreation as one of the things they look at in terms of moving here. Or, visitors, of course, travel and tourism is our number one business in the county. Things to do outside in the area. That's a huge draw. So it's a big economic development tool, along with being good for mental health and exercise and health and fitness. So, what was your last?
Are the Riverwalk Apartments, are they the ones that are up there before you get to the entrance of University Heights?
Yes, on the right-hand side.
Well, that would be a drastic improvement for them to give you an easement up through there.
Yeah, and
all trash.
when water and sewer got approved for that site, they had to agree to an easement. So that's been sort of just waiting to be connected. And I think that even the students will enjoy being able to get on the greenway right there. So there's just a lot of potential, and I think it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for Cullowhee too, which of course has just been kind of a backwater forever, for decades, in terms of the commercial side of it. So if you get a chance and you're over in Franklin, walk on their greenway. That's the closest one in the area. And they're still, it's kind of brand new over in Brevard, but it's an amazing thing to see how many people are using these things and the visibility it gives to our community. And I think all the surveys that have been done, we're in the process of doing extensive surveying right now. They're all really positive. It's amazing how usually when you send surveys out on any particular topic, you're going to get lots of negativity. People will tell you what's wrong with whatever it is that you're doing. But for the Greenway, it's all really positive. It's, the only thing that's not completely positive is just ideas for how you could enhance it, but it's not a negative thing at all.
It's really good.
And as county commissioner, you better than anybody know how nice it is to actually get complimented and have people say good things about you.
Positive feedback's always a nice thing.
And sometimes rare.
Yeah. Great. Do you need us to saw a letter of recommendation for hopefully applying for grants and things? Would you like for us to sign that?
Yeah, we some grants obviously require, and you probably get these from time to time for other things. They require local support and proof of that support, especially public entities like towns and counties. So we're just asking the county to be one of the local entities that is showing their support. It doesn't cost you. We're not asking for anything. It just lets outside, groups and grant funders know that we have your support.
I think there's consensus by the board to go ahead and sign this and get it to you.
Well, thank you very much.
So, thank you.
I guess I've got one question. Sure. It might be a Donald Duck one. But if these greenways, just say 20 years down the road, 30, 50 years down the road, they just become something because of all of our parks and everything that people don't want to do anymore and they're not really using, they go downhill or they don't have people like you to, keep them up. I mean, who would this, projects or the property fall back on? Is it all just, because you've actually been bought property, so,
Well, the county owns in fee simple or by easement all of these properties. So
I got you.
It's the county's property.
I got you. Okay, all right. You were talking about the nonprofit organization, and that's what I didn't understand.
yeah, we have no economic stake in it other than trying to facilitate things for you.
No, I got you.
guys.
Okay.
Michael, do we currently maintain that section?
Yes, sir.
So we're already, devoting time to make sure that it's safe.
Okay.
And there's lots of constituencies, so I honestly don't see any possibility that could ever happen. You've got, the biking community, you've got the walking community, you've got people that just have, the spiritual connection with being outside and doing something like that. We're working on some projects right now to get us certified as, obviously for handicapped or people that need assistance, but also sort of mental health things and other things like that. So there's so many constituent groups that just love that greenway for whatever reason. So I don't see that ever, and it's an economic development tool. So it'll I think in perpetuity, it's going to be a great thing to have for the county.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Greta Worley from here in Jackson County.
Please excuse my notes, but without those, I would be lost here. As Mr. Letson said, I'm Greta Worley. I'm the Executive Director of here in Jackson County Housing and Shelter Services. And with me this evening is Marilyn Chamberlain. She is our board chair. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to present what we feel is a vital project that will address homelessness in our community. Our vision is the establishment of Jackson County's first brick and mortar homeless shelter. This project aligns closely with the 2019 mission statement set forth by the Jackson County Board of Commissioners to ensure that no one's life is at risk due to exposure to extreme weather. Today, we're here to share how we can work together to fulfill this mission while addressing the growing need for a permanent shelter in Jackson County. Enclosed in the packet I've provided to each of you is a detailed strategic plan outlining every aspect of our proposal for Jackson County's first brick and mortar homeless shelter. This includes a comprehensive breakdown of the shelter's purpose, goals, renovation plans, timeline, financial projections, and measurable outcomes. Additionally, the packet contains a flow chart illustrating the planned phases of shelter operations, from its launch as a cold weather shelter to its transition to a year-round facility. I'm certainly not going to stand here and read that entire plan to you, so I strongly encourage you to review it as it provides a detailed information and structure that will help you make an informed decision. My presentation today focuses on the key highlights, and I will be happy to address any specific questions you may have after you've each had time to review the packet. Highlighting why this shelter is so urgently needed and the impact it will have on our community. Homelessness is a reality in our county, and recent developments have made the need for a permanent shelter more urgent than ever. For years, Jay Patel, the owner of University Inn, generously provided rooms for our Code Purple shelter during extreme cold weather. His property served as the largest resource for sheltering individuals and families during these emergencies. Unfortunately, Jay sold the University Inn, and it has left us without the crucial option during what is already what is already proven to be a harsh winter. In the past, we have also provided emergency shelter for families with children and the elderly, offering them up to 30 days of shelter while we work to secure permanent solutions. However, with the sale of the University Inn, the Economy Inn, and the Golden Eagle in Whittier, the two hotels we currently work with, not accepting children, this leaves us for no options for families with children who are in crisis. So right now, I have families with children that cannot go into shelter because I have no place to put them. The lack of available shelter beds means that many in our community are left without protection during the extreme weather, and this project is a direct response to that gap. Here in Jackson County, we are often the first point of contact for individuals experiencing homelessness. In 2024 alone, our street outreach program conducted 60 intakes for literally homeless individuals in Jackson County. We successfully transitioned 28 households into permanent housing. We provided eviction prevention to 6 households, keeping them in their homes and avoiding homelessness altogether. Despite these efforts, the lack of a centralized shelter prevents us from fully addressing the needs of families, children, and elderly individuals. This shelter will fill that void and provide a critical resource to our community. Our proposal is to establish a permanent shelter by purchasing and renovating a former daycare center in Jackson County. That facility will, one, operate as a cold weather shelter in phase one, housing up to 24 individuals and 2 families starting this November 2025. Two, transition into a year-round congregate shelter within 2 years, providing a broader range of services and expanded capacity. Renovations will include roof replacement, bathroom upgrades to accommodate adults, and interior improvements to create a safe and trauma-free, welcoming environment to residents. These updates are essential to meet the needs of our clients and ensure the facility is ready for operations. Our vision is to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring in Jackson County. This shelter will not only address immediate housing needs, but also connect residents with critical services, including case management to help clients transition to stable, permanent housing, as well as a dedicated case manager to help our clients apply for and obtain SSDI benefits, transportation assistance to jobs, healthcare and resources, and referrals to community partners for employment, mental health, and other supportive services. By addressing homelessness proactively, this shelter will help reduce the average duration of homelessness in Jackson County by 30% within the first year. This shelter will have measurable impacts on our community. One, transition at least 35% of individuals and 50% of families from the shelter into stable housing within 6 months. Prevent, and assure that 80% of the housed individuals remain stable for at least 1 year in their residence. Beyond this, beyond these outcomes, the shelter will provide a safe, supportive space where individuals and families can regain their footing and build a path to stability. Our request from the county is $500,000 to purchase and renovate this facility. This funding will allow us to, one, replace the roof and update restrooms to meet the needs of our residents, and two, provide the facility, prepare this facility for operations as a cold weather shelter this November. We will also pursue additional funding through grants, donation, and community partnerships to sustain and expand the shelter's operations over time. We have already began a capital campaign started in mid-November, and through that date until today, we've raised right at $24,000. This impact of the shelter goes beyond numbers. It will directly address the Jackson County Board of Commissioners' mission to ensure no life is at risk due to extreme weather. It will provide families with children and elderly individuals a safe and secure place to stay during times of crises. It will alleviate the strain on emergency services, healthcare, and other community resources such as the county jail by creating a ripple effect that benefits across Jackson County. This shelter will not just be a building, it's a lifeline for individuals and families in crises. The loss of resources like the University Inn and the challenges of the current economy make this project more critical than ever. Thank you for your time and your consideration. After Ms. Chamberlain speaks, we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have and work with you to make this vision a reality.
Good evening. I'd like to kind of give a little bit of context of where this request is coming from. There's a long history of us working in Jackson County. I was working with the homeless program when it was under Southwestern Child Development. At that time, I oversaw a task force of the Director of Aging, Department of Aging, the Director of DSS, the Director of the Health Department, to look at homelessness and the options available to us. And the report, which was given to the commissioners and asked for by the commissioners at the time, indicated that we were going to be at this point at some point in our process. It is not sustainable to use a hotel model anywhere in the country, including Jackson County. So having done that, we also were part of the discussion when the ARPA funds came through, and there were two projects on the table. One was Center for Domestic Peace, and the other one was the Shelter for Here in Jackson County. The Shelter for Here in Jackson County, the request was that we do a little bit more research before the funding was requested, and we did so in two ways. One, the commissioners at the time paid to have a private research firm come in and do a research project that ended in an impact study on homelessness in Jackson County. They held, and I'm assuming some of you were present for some of these, they held several focus groups, talked to various different stakeholders in the county, and came to the conclusion that there was a one-year plan, which was for us to focus our attention on services that we are already providing, make sure the community knows about that, and strengthen those services, which we did. And this was done in 2022, so that would have put us in 2023. In 2020, in 2 years, 2 to 3 years, this phase 2 was to get a permanent shelter and begin with cold weather, and then broaden that out to an all year round shelter within 4 years. So we're on track with what the county members at the time had suggested and voiced in those privately run sessions in which we were not running the group. It was an independent research group. And I believe you all have that available to you as well. And then we also approached Dogwood several years ago for funding at the time when Center for Domestic Peace was on the table and here in Jackson County were on the table. We approached Dogwood as well. They requested that we do a capital funds assessment. And so last year, capital funds assessment was completed, and the conclusion of the capital funds assessment was that there's enough support in the community and through the county commissioners and through other organizations to fund this shelter. So we bring all of that knowledge to this point in time, and then had the crucial selling of our main property for housing individuals during the cold weather. So I wanted to kind of give you.
Reached out to Dogwood Health recently.
We've not reached out to Dogwood Health recently, and here's why. I don't know if many of you know, but reaching out to Dogwood Health is extremely difficult right now because all of their funds are going to, almost all of their funds are going to Hurricane Helene relief. I'm a grant writer as a profession, and I cannot get through to the people that I know at Dogwood right now. But that is our plan, is to reach out to Dogwood. We have reached out to the State Employee and Credit Union, and we've also reached out to the Cannon Foundation.
You reached out to the Health Foundation, the Dogwood Trail.
Dogwood Trust we have, yes. Well, no, that's the one we're trying to reach out to, but we're having, yeah. We've sent emails and we've had phone calls, but again, they're prioritizing
Yeah.
other regions.
A lot of
Other, yeah. Understandably, you know. So yes, we have done, and let me just say, part of for some of these foundations, part of what they're wanting is to have others supporting this at a rate that they feel comfortable putting the remaining funds in. So getting us up to that point.
partnering.
Mhm. But they have not been unenthusiastic about it.
Not at all,
They've been encouraging, so
especially the Cannon Foundation.
yes. And the Cannon Foundation
A lot of
usually,
technology stuff.
I'm sorry?
I thought that the Cannon Foundation does a lot of technology.
No, the Cannon Foundation does mostly capital projects, almost all capital projects. That's all they'll fund is capital projects. And for anything over $100,000, they want it to be the last one coming into it, and they want to be at least under that 50% mark that they're funding.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
No, I said, so do we.
Yeah. Well, there you
Always-
go.
it's
So
always
do the
best-
math.
It's always best to laugh.
So under 100,000.
No, over 100. If they, over anything over 100,000, up to 100,000, you can get from them more or less
Without a match.
without a match.
Okay.
Yeah, by the way, for future reference, they will do, as I said, capital programs. They will do technology. They will also buy vehicles. They will pay 75% of vehicles that anybody is needed of. So I'm very familiar with the Cannon Foundation.
Well, I think, I think the 500,000 is well within reach. It's a matter of getting all these individuals, organizations to come together and say,
Well, and it's significantly lower than what the ask was when we were doing the ARPA. And I mean, that was,
3 million.
it was 3 million.
Right, it's in
Yeah.
the package.
you or something.
Yeah. And it's significantly other than CDP is coming in budget. So I think that's a fair ask.
Okay. Well, I know a few people on the Health Foundation, so.
Cool. You make some calls too.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is, I guess my biggest question is, who's going to monitor, to ensure that, especially if families are going to be there, that some of the mental health aspects and drug use and that.
It will be staffed. It will be staffed 24 hours. Yes.
That's some of the other projects that we've done grants for. We put a condition on it that
Yeah.
it has to be used as this, and if it ever isn't.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, we have that concern too, and that's why the building that we're looking at is really nice because it has 3 distinct areas that can be blocked off, and we would not leave it unattended at all.
There will be 24 hours. There will be a shelter manager, case manager, so there will always be someone there.
And the thought is that they would not be in the shelter for 24
No,
hours.
they have to leave in the mornings.
Yes.
And each room has, an exit, which will have alarms on, so if we know if they go out.
Did you have a
they'll
question?
automatically lock and they can't come back in.
Did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay.
That was one of my other concerns is the vetting of, I know it's hard to say, hey, it's 10 degrees outside, but you still need to vet because you have children in the facility.
Right.
And we vet now.
And if these people can't be there for 24 hours straight, where do they go?
There are lots of different, right, there are lots of different, so some of them do have the mental health concerns. So the REC at Meridian is a location where they can go and they can get some services as well as some classes. We also have assisting with getting employment. So there's lots of things that we can work with them to do. We're not going to just, set them out into the street.
Y'all work with mountain projects as well in terms of trying to get
Mhm.
other organizations involved to
Yes.
put that path.
And social services, yeah, we have a whole wraparound. That's what we do with case management. So we currently have that.
Are these mandatory that they go to these classes and that they work? Or try to seek a job, I mean, there's help wanted signs all over the place.
Yes, it's, you know,
And we can't make them. I mean, we suggest
Well, when you're providing for them.
so this is a great question, and it's a question that the federal government is debating, actually. There's a program through HUD. In order to get HUD funding, which we receive, you have to be a housing first model, which means you cannot force them into any kind of services. That's a federal, and if we do that, we will lose the money that we help them to have for rent. So we're kind of we're in a sticky situation in that sense, because we want to get them rent. And so
All kinds of multi-layers that you.
I mean, we
It
have
really is.
clients that get jobs, but they just can't sustain it because of their
Well, if
mental
you
health.
can't make them want to do something to
Right.
either seek mental health and get a job
right.
or both, then,
Right.
I mean, they don't have to do anything. They can just stay like they are.
Well, unfortunately, there's funding for that, not our funding, but funding for that. If that makes sense. It's not our program necessarily. It's called permanent supportive housing, and that's paying them to live in a rent. It's paying rent.
It's like Mountain Projects. They permanent supportive housing will pay 70%. The client has to pay 30%.
But then
And
there's
it's for those who have those severe mental health
yes.
issues.
And there are no requirements for those. But that's, as I said, that's different program. We do not run that program. Via Health runs that program. Via Health runs that program.
And like she said, housing first, the country feels like, or the federal government feels like, as long as you have housing, then the other things will come. You'll have a shower. You take a shower. You feel like you can go to work. You feel like you can go out and look for a job. So that's not our decision. That's HUD.
I think back to a couple years ago, there was a couple gentlemen living in Mark Watson Park. They had money for rent. They just couldn't find a place.
And that's
And that was
that's
that-
often
that's when HERE stepped in and
Yep.
kind of put them in a place temporarily until they were able to.
I mean, to understand a little better, $53,000 in rental assistance,
58,000.
58,000.
And that rental assistance includes application fees, utility deposits, security deposits, then rental assistance.
But it comes with a stipulation that it's housing first. So that's 58,000 that's coming into the county to help people start in their homes.
Guys work with projects pretty closely too.
Very closely. Yeah.
Part of the new project they're starting out in Webster.
The
No.
affordable housing or not.
Although some of our folks should probably get in there.
The thing-
That's what I'm.
Yes, yes.
The
Yes.
thing with Mountain Projects is they get federal dollars and we get federal
Yes.
dollars. The only thing that we can really do is pay a security deposit
Yeah.
and their first month's rent, and then once Mountain Project steps in and starts paying, then we're out.
Yeah.
Double dipping in the.
Right.
Yeah. We're a stopgap for a couple months to get them up and going.
But again, I want to highlight 28 households we got housed in calendar year
Yeah.
2024.
So, and we might not have gotten that without that funding with those. I mean, it's a delicate balance. So,
So much.
Thank
A
you.
lot of great information.
Thank you.
So next up, we have business of childcare update, and Ms. Henry and Mr. Andrews from business of childcare.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope y'all are doing good.
Doing great. Did you have a good Christmas and New Year's?
I did. It was over way too fast.
Yeah.
So I'm Tiffany Henry. I've got two new commissioners that I haven't met in this role, but I'm the Director of Economic Development. So glad that I could be here this evening. There's been some work that we've been doing in my department along with several other partners. And we received a grant from Dogwood Health Trust to hire Jeff Andrews and his team with the business of childcare. And I've got him here with me. We are sort of coming towards the end of the work that he's been doing. And so, Jeff, I'm going to have you go ahead, and we're just going to go ahead and get started in these slides. And then if you've got questions, we'll answer those at the end.
Wonderful. Thank you, and good evening. Glad to be able to join you. I'll be excited to be back in town next week, and I'll highlight that at the end as we do our activation plan presentation. As we go through the title slide, as I introduce myself, Jeff Andrews, President of Business of Child Care. Our focus, our mission as an organization is to really guide child care business owners, operators, providers, and the communities they serve to better outcomes. And we've been excited to be a part of the work here in Jackson County over the last handful of months, but even dating back a year prior to that. I remember when Tiffany and I first interacted and talked about beyond family and child, how child care was impacting the greater community. If we are able to go to the next slide, I'll just highlight one of the things that we talk about beyond the obvious, right? We're caring for children, families are, all those things that come when we normally think about childcare. We think about it a lot and have a lot of conversations around why it's even more important for communities from a workforce perspective. Just as we highlight opportunities for jobs, help wanted signs that are around the county, we know that in some cases, those jobs could be filled if there was childcare that matched the needs of that parent or that family, right? So when we think about this, we really lift that conversation up beyond just all the fun things that happen in these settings to the reality that when that child has a setting to go to, an adult often has a chance to go pursue employment or education that might lead to that employment. So I give that just as a basis that we look at this at a broad scale, really from a community perspective, and as an economic multiplier. And this was really highlighted. It was actually, I was a panelist for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, hosted a national event early December. And it's a challenge communities and counties like Jackson are continuing to work through around the country. So you're not in, unfortunately, a unique company, but I think certainly a lot of opportunities ahead. If we go to the next slide, just to give you an idea of kind of what this process looked like. We obviously have been having some conversations over a longer period of time, but we really kicked off in mid-September with what we call our Opportunities and Outcomes Workshop. And as you'll see in the coming slides here in a few minutes, really an opportunity over, I think, 6 different sessions, as well as follow-up conversations with individuals who weren't able to participate to really identify what are the current problems or challenges, as well as opportunities related to childcare. And the breakout of those groups provided some focus for some workforce leaders to come together, certainly education in the realm of that. We even hosted a session for existing providers on that first evening. So we had that venue that was appropriate for them to share their challenges and their opportunities. And interestingly enough, as often happens in many of the communities that we work with, we started to see some repeating themes, right? Part of that is the inventory of all those things, but more importantly, in each of those sessions, we focus the last half on what, if any of those, look like as a win, right? Meaning, if it were better tomorrow, what does that mean? And your community, like all, are very good at starting to articulate what is that win, right? What's that address for success? And with all of that information, certainly due to the events during the fall, slight pause, we came back together to really start to review what do those things start to look like as solutions. And so our approach, again, starts with what's the real problem we're trying to solve or opportunity to take advantage? What does it look like as the win? And then we start to build those solutions in. And as highlighted at the bottom of this slide, I'll be in town next Thursday evening to present the Child Care Solutions Activation Plan. And before we get into maybe what that's going to start to look like, if we go to the next slide and over the next, after this slide, this highlights what that driving issue on data from a data perspective, right? Looking at the number of children with all available parents in the workforce, the number of actual slots isn't quantified here, but it's around 800, about 800 or 900, 800, 900 available slots. Understanding that often they're never running full capacity because no business often does. And so even from a data perspective, we see a shortage just of general capacity. Now, what's important to understand is some of that appearance and shortage is maybe made up by people working split shift. Or maybe there's other scenarios where they're working around the fact that there isn't available childcare, or in their case, their family hasn't found other ways to not necessarily need that. But behind and beyond the data, right, and in the travels of our own community and in our own lives, we start to actually qualify what does that mean. And as you go to the next slide, it really starts to highlight the inventory. And I always highlight this is an inventory, right? Understanding that by no means are we taking on all of these things. And in some cases, some of these things rise above the efforts that often Jackson County would necessarily focus on. But regulatory barriers, workforce shortage is a big challenge. Staffing, we have programs that have a space or facility but don't have the staff qualified to be in those spaces to open up that capacity. We certainly hear often, and no different here, some mismatches on available subsidy. Certainly as you get into some of the more focused needs, special needs or otherwise, there's some challenges there. And a big highlight was really some limited capacity in some of the meetings around after school and summer programs, right? For especially as we get into some of the older kids, where do they go when school isn't in session or when summer has kicked off? And so that's a starting point. We go to the next slide here. And again, these are just some pictures from those events. Not surprisingly, infant care shortage. Transportation was also highlighted, and not necessarily appropriate for our work. I unfortunately don't know as much about transportation. It does highlight a key challenge of if you're not living near where childcare is, and if you have limited transportation opportunities, how do you make that connection? Which sometimes, again, can be a contributing factor to a mismatch. There's also, I think, sustainability concerns for providers. Programs, both long running, short running, are still faced with increasing pressure, mainly due to the labor force and the available labor and the cost of that labor. Significant increases, almost leading all their industries on growth of wages is the childcare sector. But with that said, it's understanding that they were also often far below even what the retail establishments of many communities were offering. And so that is our biggest contributing cost. And people say, why is it so expensive? I say, because people get paid. And this is a people focused business. So it gives us some, at least understanding. I mean, you don't have to accept it or like it. It does, though, help us see what that looks like. As we go to the next slide, again, a lot of you're starting to see maybe even similar themes here. There's definitely a tone and an opportunity to continue engaging families. And maybe even beyond where we've been engaging them was some of the conversations. Misconceptions even. What is childcare? Is it babysitting? Is it childcare? Is it early education? And even finding more opportunities for recognition of childcare staff and really providing them venues to be a part of the conversations that sometimes they feel are happening aside of them. I think in this community, in this example, we did a good job of including, engaging both in the moment, and I've had several follow-up conversations with several centers and their teams to further engage in their needs and opportunities, right, for continued growth. On the last slide here, just wrapping up these items of kind of inventory, you'll notice that can you go to the next slide, Tiffany? We then get into also some conversation around migrant and day labor populations, limited hours, and that big one at the end, the continued opportunities for greater collaboration in advocacy. So it really gives you a wide spectrum, and you'll see in the final activation plan, we fully inventory all of these things. And the reason I highlight that is because our approach, which has been successful, is to inventory all of them, but then, as I said, working with the community through these sessions, highlight where's our first focus, 2, 3, 4 things. Knowing that if we could get some wins, if we can get some momentum, if we can maybe fill in some of or grab that low-hanging fruit, as they say, that often sets the stage for additional improvements or enhancements downstream. So I highlight that just to be aware that there's lots of opportunities to improve conditions. Our focus as we start to go on to the next slide is really starting to, and it'll play out in the plan, first and foremost around some organizational and maybe just organizational support. Funding may or may not be a part of it, but I think there was a wide belief that there are, the early education field well represented in your area, well position to be great partners in continuing to guide some of this work. I think the opportunity here is, do we bring our workforce leaders too? Do we bring our broader education leaders, community leaders such as yourself into more of a formal organization focused on Jackson County and all things childcare and early ed related? The group consensus of the different meetings and conversations is yes, there's a great opportunity for that, because it also beyond that formal structure gives us an opportunity to have a platform to amplify to some of these other things. What does childcare mean? Why is it important? Why do we want our kids to be getting prepared to show up in kindergarten? Whatever that might be under that umbrella, it provides an opportunity for the bigger community to be a part of that work and that engagement. The other second one there, workforce and talent pipeline. Again, we need more people doing this work. And part of that is creating within the school systems and building on what exists, the mentoring programs and other that often maybe need a few more resources or even a few more people, an opportunity to show the pathway, the career pathway that early education or childcare, whether as a professional worker in one of the centers or even going out and starting your own or doing something in the realm, is actually a good place to go. And it's a good place to be, and it's meaningful. And oh, by the way, we figure out a way that you can live with a wage that allows you to pay rent and buy groceries, types of things. So I think there was a real desire to continue to focus on that, which again leads back to that whole issue. If we've got rooms open, we don't have team members to be in there. That's our easiest way to try to take advantage of what's existing as capacity. On the next slide, then, the two other key areas, as we look at, more capacity, right? If we're going to take care of existing, we provide some structure, we kind of stabilize things as it might be, we bring them into the fold, we're still going to need more, right? Just as we looked at the numbers, your community, your area continues to grow, which is a great thing. Childcare can be a tool that helps support that growth and that development, because just like I heard earlier, we have places, housing is what I hear from communities, childcare is what I hear, and jobs. And I think this is one that is a real opportunity to look at, not even big centers, but are there other ways that we can help the existing add on? Is there some smaller venues? Are there some more creative ways? And those are things that we'll be drawing out upon. And then again, just the expanded programming, the types of care or the times of day that the care might be offered, or even the age groups that it expands and offers to is another area of highlighted. And with the flexible models, being mindful of the fact that there are lots of different ways to provide childcare, and there are lots of different ways preferred by families for childcare to be offered. And some don't always show up in the normal way, but those kids are still going to show up, for instance, at our kindergarten doors and be in our communities as time goes on. So how can we, in an appropriate way, support those maybe smaller efforts that are just as meaningful and impactful? That just gives you an idea. As we go to the next slide here, just highlighting the public is invited. We welcome all those who participated in these various meetings and conversations, as well as those who haven't, to join us here next Thursday for an in-person presentation and discussion about what those next steps forward are. That is the culmination, kind of the formal one of our efforts. Here is that activation plan, and it's more than just providing, hey, here's some great ideas. It actually, for each of these items, breaks out the beginning steps and kind of overall starting process so that we can activate to some of these great ideas, rather than one more report or study or output that, as I say, we might admire but never end up having the opportunity to take advantage of. So that's Tiffany, unless I missed anything, that was kind of the quick update that hopefully gives a little bit of background. Again, Business of Childcare, we're based out of Minneapolis. My work and our team's work is national, and we've been really focused over the last handful of years on what's the next steps for childcare. And that's why we've been grateful to be a part of your community, hear those conversations, and look forward to presenting some ideas to move forward.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of remind this group, I think it's really important. One of the reasons why I brought Jeff in is he has a lot of experience working with childcare providers and communities, and he's done it all over the nation in a lot of different states, a lot of different rural communities. And when I first talked to him, it was have you done anything in North Carolina? Because our laws are a little bit different in the state of North Carolina. And so we actually kind of had to wait a little bit to engage with him until he had done some work in some other counties in North Carolina. And then once he did that, then I was able to get Dogwood on board and just kind of started moving forward at that point. Also, at that same time was when Southwestern Child Development closed their centers, and it was like, Dogwood, I need this now. I needed it yesterday. And so it's really timely and important. It's also late, in my opinion, just because, as he said, everybody's facing this same problem with childcare. And you may wonder why me, as Economic Development Director, are up here talking about childcare. Housing, all of these things all impact economic development. And so that's why I kind of took the lead with this. Our childcare providers are extremely busy and covered up, and they want to do this work, but they haven't had the capacity to do it. And so they're like, if you will champion this work, we will be behind you. So I've got a lead team of people that includes Mountain Projects, DSS, Partnership for Children, Region A, the Jackson County Public Schools, and Southwestern Child Development, and I feel like I'm forgetting one other partner, but the point is, these are the providers that do this work on a daily basis. I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like I know how they make it work on a daily basis or the struggles that they really have, but I think it's important for us to try and figure out a way that we can chip away at some of these problems. And I got some data just this week for another meeting that I'm having. And just to kind of put it in perspective, we have one center that has 30 on their waiting list, another that has 25, one that has 9, one that has 45, and one that has 4, and that's the entire span of Jackson County up to Cashers down into this county line. So we're seeing this across the board. We're also seeing a lot of the vacancies have decreased from March of 23 to December of 24 from 50 to 37. They've a lot of that Southwestern Child Development, when they closed those, because we already had this group that was already meeting on a regular basis, we were having these conversations like, where are these kids going? Where can we find space in an existing facility? Can we absorb that staff? So some of these centers did absorb the staff from Southwestern Child Development centers, as well as some of those kids. So we were able to help find placement for a lot of those just because we were already collaborating and working together. So it worked well in that setting, given the cards that we were dealt. But I also did send you an email with this invitation, but I have a flyer for that next week. We had, during September's meetings, it was actually the week of the hurricane. So that's why it got put on pause, and we kind of kicked it back up in November. But we had I think we probably had over 60 people at those stakeholder sessions for those 2 days. We had them down in Silva and up in Cashers over those 2 days. So I'm going to give you this, and then we're here for any questions that y'all have.
Why did Southwestern Child Development shut down?
Haven't really gotten a clear answer on that. I think a lot of it is cost. The cost to continue to run those facilities, they were not breaking even. They were actually losing money. So they tried a model of consolidating, like in Jackson County, all of them consolidating under one roof. That didn't help either. They tried 1/4 of that model, and it just didn't work. Yeah, they did. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on any of that? I know that you're seeing some of that in other places as well.
Yeah, I mean, just generically, and I'm not certainly privy to this particular situation, but broadly, the challenge we're running into is just a math one. And it's one that's driven by the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, the labor costs are significant. For a normal child care center, we like to see their staffing as a cost of service no greater than 65%. And in many cases, centers are running close to 80. I just had one the other day, different state, 85% of their revenue, dollars in, right out, we're going to staff. And when you think about typical overhead ranges of 30 to 40%, you can tell where that math ends up short. So that is still a driving challenge is the finance behind it. But part of it also in some cases is, and again, did not worked with any of the providers in this area. Sometimes it's just a lack of confidence on the business acumen or some of the business decisions that one might make in a different business that didn't involve children and the rainbows and sunshine that come with it. So I think there's some real challenges on operators who are well-intentioned and doing their best to manage a low, as affordable as possible tuition rate, not necessarily always understanding the long-term impact as you run out of gas. And so not specific to any situation here, I want to be real clear of that, but broadly, that's what we're seeing at a national level. And it's not new. It's not this year's problem. It's been just an overall challenge because obviously most people are attracted to this field for their love and passion for children and helping them grow, and not always running a $100,000, $1 million or more operation. Just like any business might be challenged by somebody not as confident or experienced.
And your child care centers, I mean, when we talk to them about some of the struggles that they're having and even statewide advocacy groups, it's a federal and state problem. And the regulations are really handicapping these facilities, and it's making it really hard for them to make a viable business out of it. So that is going to do one of two things. It's either going to increase the cost where people can't afford it. I mean, you're never going to get ahead of it. And so those are some of the conversations and some of these stakeholder meetings when we were hearing from the providers themselves, what they're paying the employees, are their benefits. And so it's just, again, trying to figure out a way we can chip away at it, knowing we're not going to solve the big problem here locally at Jackson County, because it's way bigger than we are.
Were these new rules and regulations, were they implemented by the state?
Jeff?
Yeah, state, for just clarity, childcare licensing is almost always or exclusively owned by the state. So it would be the state Department of Early Ed, I think it's called there, that dictates what the rules are around all things related to childcare.
Yeah.
That's where social services go. Feds just enacted some new legislation 2-3 years ago that came down to all the states.
Mm-hmm.
They had to change some things.
And our state leaders are saying that they're waiting on the federal government to change some of these things and to invest and support. So again, it's about, being an advocate to our legislators, helping them to understand how critical it is. But then what can we do here locally? Because if we wait on these really big problems to be solved, we're always going to be waiting. So it's about, taking charge of the things that we can control and support.
That's why I was asking, because, one thing we could do is start asking our legislature, to help us out with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And get on board with it. They need to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
They are, but it's just enacting that next step,
Yeah, well, I'm not saying
there's
they
so many
wasn't, but
things that
the other big contributing thing that doesn't help is all the wage hikes
Mm-hmm.
that we've had over the last few years.
Yeah.
And insurance costs.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, the childcare sector has not been immune to all of those rising costs. Food, right, is a big one that most providers are shouldering, but without a doubt, staff and labor is the biggest hurdle financially for any childcare program to manage appropriately.
Do y'all have any other questions for us? And then we will let y'all get on to your next agenda item. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Been waiting for it all night. Unified Development Ordinance,
Yes.
technical correction.
Yes, sir.
This on the agenda just as soon as I saw it.
But it's some fun stuff.
Hey,
It's thank you, commissioners, for allowing me some time this evening to talk to you about some of the work the planning department's doing with some of our boards and councils, and especially as they relate tangentially to our goals for parks and recreation moving forward. In working with Michael and Parks and Rec as we look at our ordinance structure, we noticed that a couple of our priorities, there was some offset between what our ordinance strictly allowed and what our goals were in our plan documents and our recreation documents and our plan goals for land use. So we're working to clear those issues up. Mainly it's about uses in districts and residential districts. In the 441 corridor where we have Whittier Park, the rural living district allows greenways and trails and things of that nature, but doesn't specifically allow all the other amenities that the parks would allow. So we're correcting that by allowing recreation uses for governmental purposes across the rural living area. Which encompasses the future park as well. So where there was a little bit of conflict between what types of recreational uses were allowed in that district, we're clearing that up with this amendment. And it's really just an amendment to the table of uses that says that it's clearly states it's permitted in that district. In Cullowhee, likewise, as we started to work with this, we also looked at Cullowhee. The Greenway is both inside and outside the Cullowhee regulated district. And we noticed there as well that our recreation governmental uses, the only two districts that they're not allowed in is the single family and the single family manufactured home district. But as we continue to our Greenway efforts, that goes through residential properties. So we are looking to make those uses allowable in those districts. Again, just a table use. We're working with both the Cullowhee Planning Council and the US 441 Council. The Cullowhee Planning Council held a public hearing last night and unanimously recommended the changes. We will meet with the 441 Council on Thursday. They've been very supportive of all those changes, and we plan to talk with the planning board as well on Monday of this coming week to go through all the necessary steps that governments are required to when they change their ordinance structure. And that would lead us back to the Board of Commissioners with a request to schedule a public hearing, which is required by the statutes, to make these amendments, for your consideration to make these amendments final. That's the overview. I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
I feel like I need to ask a question. So essentially, we're making these undefined areas that are in rural areas allowable for things like the Greenway or the Whittier Park.
We're clarifying these things and making sure that it's not, hey, are we looking at one area it might be yes, one area it might be no. We're just we're making it clear that yes, these are uses that are allowed in these districts. And like I said, I think from the board support, the public support that we received for these types of uses, that's not the issue. It's just cleaning it up in our regulatory documents so we can move forward. So that's really the genesis of the work we've been doing.
Meet Monday?
The planning board meets at 6 p.m. at the Department on Aging, and that'll be a review. And then 441 will be at the Qualla Community Center for a public hearing. And anyone from the public's welcome to join us. I think that's going to be at 5:30 at the Qualla Center.
Sorry, Monday was what time?
Monday is at 6 p.m. at the Department on Aging's Heritage Room. It's our normal, regularly scheduled planning board meeting. We have gotten his contact information, so we should have been, we should have sent him along that information as well. So we will. Allison in my office is very persistent. She will get a hold of him for sure.
That's 4 minutes.
I can go longer. I just thought you might appreciate the brevity, but I come prepared to talk for hours. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much.
Except we have Mr. Hopkins. Parks and Rec report. I will say one thing. After the 17th meeting, I got one text message when someone renewed, and they were confused as to which pass they needed to purchase.
Thank you.
They're like, well, where's the wet pass good for in Cashers? I said, it's
Rainy days.
I've caught a little flack from the public over it, but overall it's simplified things a lot. Cleaned up our rec desk software for doing memberships. I think at one point in time, once we went wet, dry, resident, non-resident, and then throw in all your corporate, wellness, education, employee, I think we were over like 65 different memberships that you could have an option of trying to find, and it just simplified it. That's comes with the territory, for sure. So, well, thank you guys for having me. Mr. King had asked me to come tonight just to give some basic updates of what's going on in the recreation department world. Obviously, with the new pool coming about, that's been the biggest thing. But as you can see, here's our mission and vision. To enhance the quality of life for Jackson County residents by providing accessible, safe, and inclusive recreational opportunities and preserving natural resources. And our vision is to create a community where recreation and nature foster physical, mental, and social well-being, ensuring a sustainable and vibrant future for all. And within that mission and vision for us, we hold true to that with our 10-year master plan. And as you can see, that from the support that we've had from the commissioners' previous boards as well, we stay the path with our master plans. Over our last 20 years of master plans, we've been able to accomplish every single goal that has been on those. So that's a lot to do with the support of commissioners, support of the community, residents of Jackson County coming out to our small input groups that we have and expressing what they would like to see in their specific areas. Moving on to our next slide, some key project updates. Obviously, the Aquatic Center progress facility has been completed. We did a week-long soft opening in December. We did that to train and acclimate staff during that time frame. We didn't do a lot of advertising for that, mainly just word of mouth, just to get folks in there to get staff up to date and see what's going on. Everything went really well from that. You could see as the days progressed, as we went, attendance progressed day by day. This past Saturday was our first true opening day of normal hours. We were over 350 visitors to the pool just this Saturday alone. So a lot of good feedback. I haven't had any negative feedback about the pool, just about some membership prices has been the biggest thing. So next steps for us is just working towards having a more defined hours of operation. That's all going to be dependent upon lifeguard staffing. I mean, obviously, we've built a $20+ million facility. We want to try to keep that open as much as possible. I think we may discuss this a little bit later on in the meeting, but just talking about the sustainability of trying to keep 45 part-time lifeguards year-round. That's going to be extremely tough. To keep that number year-round, keep those happy, keep them with the hours that they want, but also it's not so much finding the folks to work afternoons and weekends. It's trying to find folks to work from that 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. time frame. That's been the challenge. We do have a few retired folks. Majority of our guards are high school and college students. Have to work within their schedule. But we'll have some more discussions, I think, about that a little bit later on. So right now, hours of operation for the pool, we'll be releasing those from week to week until college students, high school students get back into their regular routine, back in town from their holidays. And then we'll be able to get more of a set routine of our hours being where the pool will open 30 minutes after a facility opens and closes 30 minutes before the facility closes, just to give time for water testing to be done, and then also for cleanup, guards to get things done that they need to do. Other key projects here, well, you can just see a few slides of the pictures. There's the new main entrance. Everybody comes in and is like, wow, this is a 4-star hotel. Where do we check in? Where do we go get a room? So to say that this building is nice is an understatement. Lots of use from the sauna areas that you can see. Both men's and women's locker rooms have saunas in those. People taking a lot of advantage of using those. Super nice locker room area, plenty of lockers for folks to go in. do what they need to do. Picture of the competition pool. We've already had the Smoky Mountain High School swim team in. They've been taking advantage of that since mid-December roughly. And it's this, they're so elated to be able to have a place that they can truly call home now, to be able to train out of and be ready, more prepared for their meets that they have. Folks are excited about the swim team starting up to in-house and county swim team as well. Picture of the leisure pool. Highlight for me has been just standing there at the door watching the little kids come in, and you just see their faces just absolutely just light up, just the joy of seeing something like that. I thought the little splash pad area would be the highlight for that pool. Come to find out, the little circular area there, that's our therapy pool. It almost creates like a lazy river. You can't get the little kids out of that area. I mean, there'll be like 40 of them all in that area, kind of locking arms, just swirling around. So, anyhow, it's been awesome just to see the joy of the little guys getting in there and playing. Party rooms, have 2 party rooms that we're able to start renting out, reserving for birthday parties, 2-hour time blocks on those. Key project updates. So currently, Webster Park is getting close to being finished out with everything out there. We were able to put in an ADA playground, first of its kind west of Asheville. Another one of those things that just kind of gives you goosebumps thinking about when you go out there and watch children with disabilities or adults with disabilities being able to play with little brothers and sisters. Just a smile and grins on their face. It's just something to take in. Build a new pavilion out there. We did some trail lighting. Current focus right now is just adding some additional parking, making the playground even more accessible for folks with disabilities, and then trail improvements. Here's a picture of the playground for folks that haven't got an opportunity to see that yet. Pour and play surface there, which has been an unbelievable update to just playgrounds in general. It'd be nice if we could move to that in the future rather than those wood chips. It's just a much safer feature. The pavilion that you can see, there's some grant money involved with that. The town of Webster's helped us out to complete the pavilion. Solar lighting was recently installed around the walking trail. That's been a hit from the residents out there in Webster so far. A couple other key project updates. The Qualla Whittier Park progress bid has been approved for Cherokee Enterprises. Just waiting on just getting a few things finalized with some signatures on that contract. As soon as that's done, they'll be able to begin work, and we'll have roughly 12 months to complete that project. And there you can kind of just see a rough drawing of what amenities will be held out at the Qualla Whittier Community Park. Continuing on with some key project updates, the Jackson County Greenway property continues to be acquired for expansion. Once all deals are finalized, we'll have potential to add an additional 1.6 miles to the Greenway, which, as Mr. Poston had mentioned earlier, that's going to get us, or actually Mr. Spiro, is going to get us close up to almost 3 miles of Greenway. So next steps will be just finalizing some land acquisitions, beginning Greenway build out with the help of the Jackson County Public Works and some contract help. And as Mr. Spiro was talking about earlier, where we have that little bottleneck area on Ledbetter, we're under contract with Equinox to do a feasibility study on how we'll be able to potentially attack that area if and when we're able to acquire that property. And then you can just kind of see, if you have an opportunity to go to the Greenway Bridge is a very big focal point of Jackson County, and folks coming to visit and see, take pictures. It's just a summer day there on the Greenway. It's nice, calm, relaxing area. A few damage assessments and restoration projects that we've had going on. East LaPorte Park was hit the hardest out of any of our parks during Hurricane Helene. We have contracted with BH Granting Landscaping to go out there and restore the park after the damage. They're out there right now, almost finished up with it. They've cleaned out the sand volleyball court, put new sand in. They fixed some drainage issues, put some swells in to be able to control some more of that water when it comes through. Rebuilding a pump house building that housed the well for that property. Hauled gravel in. I've done some landscaping and cleaned up all of the mud and debris that was out there. And then There was some severe damage that was done to the sidewalk and the river access area that had washed out underneath some concrete, and they've shored all that up, pumped some new concrete in and fixed that. So that actually should be done within the next week, hopefully.
What was the cost on that?
We were 52, less than $60,000 total.
That's what I was gonna ask next.
Yes.
If we got any FEMA money off of it. Okay, thank you.
And then once that's finalized, the park will be back to fully functional, other than we winterize during the winter, so we'll bring out some portable toilets to keep the park operational during that time. So here's a couple pictures you can see of the BH Grandin folks doing some repairs grading wise, getting that sidewalk and curbing fixed back to the river access point. And there was some that swell area that was fixed to help with some drainage too as well. Highlight a few programs and events. So 2024 calendar year youth program participants, we had 1,844 youth participants. Across the board, that includes anything from soccer, basketball, tennis, youth volleyball, you name it. We've pretty much tried to do it. You can see some programs and events of on our current newsletter of things that will be coming up. We offered over 400 different programs unique to the rec department, or 436 unique programs. Archery classes, hikes, spring soccer, volleyball clinics, homeschool PE, pickleball. Just what the folks in the community want, we try to provide what they want.
With this new pool, are you gonna be offering any swim lessons?
Yes, ma'am.
Children and stuff?
Yes, ma'am. We're currently in the works of that. Swim lessons should start up in February. We're getting everything through Red Cross done with our instructors. You'll have different levels of swim lessons before you can move on, level 1, 2, 3, 4. Not only that, we'll also do stroke schools. So some of the folks that are more advanced will be able to learn freestyle, breaststroke, backstroke, butterfly, whatever it may be.
'Cause
So
I think Mike Creason at Western, I think he taught about everybody in the county how to swim.
he taught me how to swim. Mike has taught a lot of folks. He sure has. So anyhow, you get to see a list of some of the programs that we did. Some programs and events, 2024 numbers of facility rentals. We did 1,854 facility rentals. That would include East LaPorte, Cullery Shelter, Little Canada, Little Savannah, Savannah. All of our picnic shelters that we have. Also included in that would be some of our facility rentals for meeting room space as well as gym space as well. Total number of check-ins, so for some facility usage at our centers. So 2024, we had over 50,000 or 57,000 check-ins at the Casters Recreation Facility. Of that, a little over 28,000 were a senior population. Cullery Recreation Center, total number of check-ins, a little over 49,000, a little over 19,000 of which were seniors. So that put us over the 100,000 mark for check-ins, and that's roughly, since we started tracking check-ins and members, we've only gone over 100,000 visits twice, and that marks the second time. We had a lull. It went up over 100,000 right before COVID, and then after COVID, we had the big drop off, and then now it's back to those pre-COVID numbers and continuing to grow. Total number of members currently of the facilities, you've got almost 1,500 at the Casters facility, a little over 1,800 at the Cullery facility. And those are all-time high numbers and memberships too as well currently for the facilities. Here's a look at the two different facilities if you're not familiar with them. Fitness usage. So here's another some more stats for you guys. Casters Recreation Fitness classes. Total number of classes offered last year was a little over 1,100. At the Cullery Recreation Center, almost 1,400. Attendance for Casters Recreation Center, roughly 11,000. Cullery Recreation Center, a little over 7,000. So that's 18,000 plus people that took advantage of fitness classes, and those are numbers that went towards your check-ins either. Those were just unique to the recreation center. Sorry about that.
I got a question about that.
Yes, sir.
I had a guy ask me about working out early in the morning. he said there's a lot of people there that's there at 7 o'clock waiting on them to open. And is there any way that they could somehow get in at 6? Because there's a bunch of them apparently.
So one of the main reasons we went to 7 o'clock in the Casters area was staffing, being able to pay staffing. And then also the number of people that did use the facility before 7 o'clock. We kind of tracked that for a couple years, and it was at times less than 5 folks in there. Not to say that's not important for those folks that want to come in and do it at that time, but being able to pay and find staff to be able to open up, be there at 5:30 in the morning to get things ready, just didn't work for us. We have one staff that lives locally up there, so you're having to drive. Most of our staff drive 30 plus minutes to get to work. So, relying on full time to have to do that year round, not real sustainable for keeping them around. But that's not to say that if we can get more folks to work, I'd be all about opening back up at 6 o'clock. Fitness classes, you can just see a monthly breakdown if you want to take a look and see exactly when you can kind of see the seasonal times and when folks really come in. Obviously in Casters, it is a seasonal area, so you'll see from April through October, roughly the numbers really increase for up there. That's when a lot of the seasonal folks are there. Colby stays a little bit more consistent year round with those numbers. County parks that we operate a park in Lynn, Canada. Up there, you've got a picnic shelter, you've got a playground. It's adjacent to the fire department that's up there. You got grills, restrooms are on site, horseshoe pits, outdoor stage area to be able to do concerts or whatever you want to do, and then there's a walking trail up there as well. East LaPorte Park we spoke about earlier, covered picnic shelter, basketball court, volleyball court, just open green space. Tuckasegee River frontage with put in. There's grills, picnic tables. The rec department in Colby, up there, that park stays busy all the time outside. You've got the asphalt trails, you've got your softball fields, soccer fields, a couple lit, 2 different playgrounds, several picnic shelters, or concession stand, restrooms on site. We've got a couple handicap accessible fishing piers that's built with some grant money from North Carolina Fish and Wildlife, and then we also have a disc golf course up there as well. Mark Watson Park, you've got a couple softball fields, your 4 tennis courts, / pickleball courts, playground. You've got a shelter, small dog park, basketball courts, walk and running trail, concession stand, restrooms on site, and the tennis courts out there were recently resurfaced.
One question about that.
Yes, sir.
Kevin may know the answer. We had looked at putting railing on the parking there that was elevated. We know where that. Somebody asked me about that the other day. Well, I think we got some prices on it.
We do have prices on it, and it's within budget. We're just trying to we're trying to negotiate a little bit, so it'll be coming soon.
Yeah, that is a pretty good drop off on from that upper road to the parking spots. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Balsam Community Center. We've got a asphalt basketball court. We've done pickleball courts up there too as well. All not basketball court. There's a playground. The community center's there, and then there's a small shelter. Casters Community Park, home of the rec center up there. Playground. You've got a couple tennis courts, walking trail, 2 baseball, softball fields. It's also used for soccer as well. Covered picnic shelter, concession stand. There's a restroom on site. There's a fishing pier too as well. We stock the pond up there regularly to be able to do some kids learn to fish type stuff. You can do some fly fishing, learn how to teach some fly fishing up there. The Brookins group is real good about coming and volunteering some time and helping us out. Fairview Youth Complex. There you've got the 3 baseball fields, batting cages, newly built concession stand, scores tower, restrooms, walking trail. Judicola Rock, we oversee that site with the soapstone. It's got all the petroglyphs in it. Viewing platform, walking trail out there. That's actually, if you drive up there any time now, you wouldn't think that it's that busy, but it's pretty well visited area. Savannah Community Park, one of our newer parks there as well. Yeah, you got a covered picnic shelter, grill, playgrounds, swings, restrooms, walking trail too. It's paved. And then we'll move on to the river access sites that we take care of. You got Shook Cove, you got Locust Creek, Webster. No boat ramp launch there. It's just more of a picnic site and river access for fishers, fishermen, fisherwomen. The CJ Harris put in, Barker's Creek put in, and then you've got the put into also at East LaPorte Park. Hidden Jewel that the Recreation Department operates is the Ralph J. Andrews Park Campground. We renovated a lot of the electrical hookups up there. We've done some paving up there. We've got some really good folks and David and Lynn that are very talented in building and construction and have been able to renovate, several bathrooms and bathhouses, things of that nature up there. Hidden Jewel in Jackson County there with lake access. Just a beautiful place if you haven't been up there.
Did the county purchase that?
It is.
The Ralph Andrews Park?
It is not purchased. It's given to us in perpetuity through Nantahala Power and Light as long as we use it for recreational purposes. If we stop using it for recreational purposes, it goes back to Duke.
It's actually a nice campground. We've stayed there.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
No, it is. I just never remember hearing anything that the county bought it. I didn't know what.
Yeah.
I'm glad they've upgraded some of the sites.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They were in need.
For sure. For sure.
I wish we could get sewer there, but that's not
Maybe the master plan will be give us the next phase of doing some addition. Employees, we currently employ 17 full-time staff, 3 permanent part-time staff, 64 part-time staff, 16 seasonal part-time staff. We have 32 instructors that teach classes, fitness classes for us, and then we have 5 personal trainers. So as you can see, our department's grown quite a bit. Especially in my time going from the old rock building at Mark Watson to it being torn down to not even having a place to work out of. So we've grown leaps and bounds in my time here. Future plans is a 10-year comprehensive Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Hope to have that completed by the end of 2025. We had requests for qualifications that went out. We received those in December. We're putting together an interview committee through advisory board and Parks and Recreation staff. That is hopefully will be done by our advisory board meeting on the 16th of this month. We'll get those folks interviewed and then be able to negotiate price for the new master plan for the recreation department. Mr. King hit on the Catchers Community Park. Came in over bid. Obviously, we're trying to piece that out a little bit. Get some bids together to try to get something going there because we definitely want to get that into the county taken care of with the new park and get that renovated and taken care of. Greenway build out and then some athletic field surfacing upgrades is currently what we've got in the works right now. Any questions I can answer for the board?
Always. No. Mr. Spiro talked about the Montero property, 17 acres. We tossed around some ideas initially. Have we explored any of those for uses of the?
Still in its infancy. We met with the Colby Planning Board last night to just discuss the process of how we will go about trying to program that area. Obviously, we want to get some input from the folks in that area of how we want to do it. Obviously, me as a recreation director, I'd like to keep that area as passive as possible, keep it open to greenway, just open space, maybe a picnic shelter, potentially maybe do some mountain biking trails on that property. A lot of it's pretty sloped. And then obviously, through our master plan process, there was a parking area, trailhead in the University Heights kind of area. So, I'd envision maybe 5 to 10 parking places, nothing that would really heavily impact the homeowners in that area, but enough space to at least provide a trailhead. How many people use that, I guess it will depend on how it's programmed, but most folks that use the greenways either want to park at Locust Creek or the terminus of the greenway.
I think the mountain biking would be a huge draw.
Yeah, obviously we're not going to do like Fire Mountain over in Cherokee, but we could definitely do something intermediate that will provide some things for some folks and kids. Yeah.
When you said Cashers it was back up for bid?
We will put it back out for bid. We currently have Equinox going back after our discussion from the last meeting of what we could do if we pulled the splash pad out to program that area. So they're working on a couple different versions of what we can use within that space if the splash pad was not in that area. So
That was my next question, if we'd figured out what was going to bid, but not yet.
not yet. Yeah, but we have contracted with Equinox to go back to the board and present something for the board to take a look at for that.
All good things.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Next up is Miss Ash with the tax reappraisal information. I got a visit from them Friday.
At least you don't have a big book for us this time.
Yeah, I tried to narrow it down. So for the new members, I'm Tabitha Ash, oversee the tax office, which includes land records, tax assessment, tax collections, and now the license plate agency. So all of that falls under our umbrella. And the reappraisals kind of fall in a very funky way because there's always at least one or two commissioners that are learning this whole thing for the first time right before we throw it on you. So we went through all the preliminary discussions and what all this stuff was, and then the two of you got to come in right here at the end of it. But hopefully Angie provided some of the initial information. If you got any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I would expect people to call you and ask questions. So that's just how it goes sometimes. So especially with one that's about to be as big as this one is, as you'll see in a minute. So that's true. Well, just send them our way. Well,
Biggest people walking up on me.
all right. So some of the presentations we've already done. Just if anybody's interested that's listening, we did one on the February 13th and August 6th. And then those following three conversations were more about our schedule of values, which is just what establishes our base rates for reappraisal. And then I like to use some of the sales information from other real estate sites just because a lot of times I don't think people, I could sit up here and say, we pulled the deeds and we looked at all this stuff. I think being able to go out and access like an actual real estate site and see this information for yourself is a lot easier for people to not comprehend, but to look at and access and believe what's actually out there because it's right there in front of you if you look. So before our last reappraisal in December of 2020, in Jackson County, the median home sale was $288. As of November, it was $423, which is a 46% increase overall. In Silva, it went from 216, this is Silva's zip code, 216 to 320, which is a 48% increase. And this is over the 4-year period, of course. And the Casher zip code, it went from 760 to almost 1.4 million, which is an 83% increase. Those are just medians, of course. That's not saying that each property in those areas, each property type. I'll discuss that a little bit more, but that's just showing just real estate sites, what those comparisons were between that 4-year period. And this map just shows all the orange is all the sales that we've had in the county since 2021. So that is a substantial amount of sales. A lot of that lightest green color is just Forest Service property, so we don't ever sell. But that is a lot of sales that have occurred in a short period of time, especially in comparison to even previous reappraisals. So we do have a lot of information to go on. And I wanted to put just a few in here just to show just an increase even from a 2023 sale to a 20.
I know where that is.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I got ahead of myself. These are 2024 sales in comparison to what our current assessment is. So let me shrink down a little bit more. So this is just a manufactured home in Greens Creek. As you can see, it's a 16% increase overall. Dollar amount doesn't seem like a lot, but that's still a 16% increase for someone to be expecting. This Baltimore Preserve House is 34,000.
Did you go inside?
We don't go inside of homes. um, that is probably more, I put manufactured home, that's probably should be more of a vacant, but they sold it as a manufactured home. The next one in Balsamont Preserve is 180% more than we currently have it assessed for, it sold for. Here's another manufactured home that sold for almost 99% more than we have it assessed for. That's in Cashers. In Huntinghampton, this house sold for almost 70% more than we have it currently assessed for. And that's just some of the recent sales, just to show the variety of different changes. And this is what I was jumping to before. So this just shows a comparison even from a 2023 sale to a 2024. So this one, just a vacant piece of property, we sold for 60% more from 2023 to 2024. This house sold for 14% more from 2023 to 2024. Here's another one that was 13% in a year. Mobile home that was almost 5% in a year. And then this one was really interesting because it literally has sold every single year between the reappraisal for, you can just see how that value changed, especially in 2023, from 2022 to 2023. And it's overall increased almost 49% over that 4-year period. And I say all of that just really to say that the real estate market is constantly changing. There's no real, we're required to pinpoint January 1 of the reappraisal year, and that's what we're looking to determine. So any of those older sales, and this is where a lot of people have the most issue with it, any of the sales really prior to the end of that year have to be reflective of what that market would be. So what we'll get a lot of people say, I just bought this in 2023 for, $300,000. Well, the market continued to increase over that time period, and we have to make sure that that value reflects what it would be January 1 of that year. And that's a little bit different than what a lot of people are used to expecting because the market doesn't change this drastically. It might be 1% or 2 in a year. And, you're pretty close to that. You might be at 305, and they're not going to complain about 305. And this market, you might be at 350. And so that's where a lot of people have, the most issue, especially if it's sold. And of course, people that it hasn't sold, it's just shocking to see such a drastic increase. And I had provided this before, and I didn't have any update, but this was something from the County Commissioners Association that they published our medium home list price in June, and we were ranked number 1 at $849,500 out of the state. So, and here's just a few listings I found as well, just to show what those increased. So this mobile home off of Cape Road is currently listed. It's not sold, but it's currently listed for 213% more than we have it assessed for. This one on Sutton Branch is 225% more than we got it assessed for. Here's another 238% more than we got it assessed for, 305% more than we got it assessed for, and roughly 200% more. And so you can see there's a drastic discrepancy between what our assessed values are, what things are selling for, and what things were listed for. Of course, listings, like I said, they have not sold, so that does not mean that they'll actually sell for that amount, but it just shows just the drastic increase. And here's my good shock and awe. So currently we're still finalizing values, and I've got a lot of data checks to do, but currently we are projecting the tax base to grow nearly $7 billion, over 60%, which is a huge amount. In 21, it went up 17%. I don't remember how many billions it was, 1 or 2, maybe. You don't remember either. Come on, darling. It was very minimal amount it paled in comparison. Of course, I say that we're still finalizing things, of course. We have not done appeals, of course, yet either because we have not seen notices. So that could drop substantially. But I do still expect a very large increase overall. I believe Kevin's going to put me on the agenda for the budget retreat to come give a little bit more of an update once we've really got the values finalized and to get a feel for where we're falling with appeals at that point. We'll still be kind of getting started, but it's going to be very substantial, and there will be a lot of people that are getting a lot of sticker shock, especially people who have not really followed the real estate market, have no desire to sell their property, things like that is going to be very, very shocking. So when I say that the tax base, that absolutely does not mean that everybody's going to go up by 60%. It's one of those things that scares people a lot. All of the changes is based on the sales that occur in the taxing neighborhood that you're in. Sales in Cashers are never used for any other township. Sales in High Hampton are never used for any other taxing neighborhood. We always try to make sure that everything is in a very similar area because those follow different market patterns. And each area of the county, our county is has a lot of different variations in it. So each area of the county, each property type, whether it's vacant land, condos, residential dwellings, mobile homes, they all change at varying rates. And you just have to make sure and capture all of that by pinpointing each area. So here is a mock-up. We're still kind of finalizing it a little bit, but this is a mock-up of what our reappraisal notice will look like. I wanted to come today because we will be mailing those out. They are expected to go out February 3rd. Individuals will have a 30-day appeal window, so March 5th will be their appeal window. They can use the form here to complete and send back in, come by our office, we can help them through it. And then you can also complete it online. We will have online appeal option this year too. Any of those work. We do, just so you're aware, we do not make any appeal decisions until after the appeal deadline. And we do that, for one, just to see if there's any areas of the county that multiple people are presenting the same issue over. So that will make us say, okay, well, maybe we need to check and see, have we missed the mark on houses with building or basements? Are we missing the mark on some kind of land element here? So we're actually taking all of that, looking at each taxing neighborhood, seeing how many appeals we have in each one, using that to make sure there's not particular things that we're missing out. Is it one person appealing the whole neighborhood? The whole neighborhood appealing? That helps us to gauge. But another big thing is it takes out a lot of emotional decision making, which can definitely create inequities. I mean, we're human beings. If you come in my office and you're screaming at one of my staff, they may be inclined to just say, we're going to pass on that. We wouldn't do that. But I mean, it does take a lot of that out. We don't remember those conversations. We're just looking at what information we have at that deadline. So we feel that works best. It also allows us more time to make sure that we're helping people through that process. We're talking to people and we're not just, all taking our time trying to review appeals. It takes a little bit more time to get done, but that's just part of it. So, of course, our goal is to ensure that all of our property owners feel like they're paying their fair share, nothing more, nothing less. We want your assessed value to be what you feel like the property could sell for based on the sales information that we have. Of course, like I said, if you do not agree with it, we recommend that you go ahead and appeal and just let us take another look at it. The one thing I would ask for anybody that's listening is if you want us to call you, because we're very limited staff and we get overwhelmed with calls now, it would be a lot easier for us if you said, hey, I really want you to call me, send in the appeal form, let us get the dust to settle a little bit, and then we can start calling people. And at least you've already got your appeal in. So if you want to continue with it, then you don't have any issues on timing. Just because if we're trying to talk to people 30 minutes a day, there's 5 of us, some of us got to help at the front. You can't really get too many people to talk to, especially when you're getting 20 voicemails in that same period of time. So that's only my ask. We'll deal with them as they come, and we do our best to call everybody back and talk to them. But we will be pushing more people just towards the appeal process, just so we can go ahead and just get those logged and then call them back later. Same thing if you really wanted us to come look at your property because you thought there was issues with it. Just put that in that comment section. Make sure we have a way to contact you, and we will get with you once the dust settles a little bit, and we can kind of manage everything that's going on, because there's not very many of us to try to fill those, and there's 40,000 of these notices that go out. So, and of course, with limited amount of time, people want to call, and of course they want to call when they first get it. So we want to welcome them to call. If they come in, we'll help them through the appeals process. That's on the notice. If you need help with appeals, come in. We'll help you. We'll help you fill it online, fill it out, whatever you want to do. Because the goal is to make sure that the assessed value is correct. So one of the main questions that we will get is, what's my tax bill going to be? What's my increased tax bill going to be? The notice itself is just to determine the assessed value. Of course, this board, the municipal boards, will determine the budget, determine what that rate's going to be. Then we send those bills in July or August, whenever we can get them out. There is currently no way for us to estimate what that tax bill amount will be. And that's always frustrating for people, because we will have all those appeals finalized before we even send the bills out. So there's really not any way for us to gauge what that amount will be, and I wouldn't want to try to give a lower rate than you guys establish, and then that would frustrate people too. We of course can tell them what the current rate is, and they can kind of base off of that. But that is one of the frustrating things, is people really want to be able to know what that new bill is going to be, and we have no way of really giving them a good estimate of what that's going to be until this board and all the municipal boards finalize rates, and that's usually way after the appeal period has passed. Which people can't really appeal the millage rate anyway. They can come do public hearings and comments and things like that. But really, our goal is, we just want to make sure that we feel like the assessed value is correct. And then I'll always go into property tax relief when I get a chance. It's open right now through June 1st. So if you are 65 or older, or 100% disabled, and you're a full-time North Carolina resident, and it's your primary residence, and Commissioner Bryson pointed this out, so I have made sure we fix this so people do understand that it's gross spousal household income, because I think he had a concern with if you had a kid that was living in the house too and they had an income. This is just what the spouse make. If you're widowed, it would just be your income. It's not the entire household's income. It's just the individuals applying for that. 2025, it's $37,900. This is statewide, a statewide program. We don't come up with these. There's just a few things. We'll need, proof of income. Disabled applicants have to complete an additional form. And that money is all monies received, veteran benefits and all. We had that question. And for married applicants, it is both of their incomes, even if it's not in both of their names. I think they're really trying to adjust that a little bit right now, because it is very limiting for married couples. So really, if you had two sisters, one of them can make just $37,900 or less, and the other one not even apply, and they still get the same benefit as a married couple. And they could be making they could be a $50,000-$60,000 household plus. I mean, if just one of them has to qualify. So it's really not set up in a way that helps spouses. So I think they're attempting to fix that now, but currently it's not been fixed. So it is a joint household thing. And for that, you will get either the greater of $25,000 or 50% of the appraised value. And that includes a dwelling up to 1 acre and any related improvements that are associated with that dwelling. And then there is also one for a 100% disabled veteran. Similar criteria. They have to get a form completed by Veterans Office, but there is no age or income requirement for that. And it is just a flat $45,000 reduction. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. I know I went through it pretty quickly. But.
I got a question, maybe not for you, but for Kevin or other commissioners. The problem I see coming here is you've got a lot of, we already know we got a shortage of worker housing, especially in Cashers. People that are born and raised there and work there, a lot of them were given land. They're paying taxes on. If their tax rate increases so much like it has been to them, it's going to be driving them out of there. We need more people like that in there. Is there some way we could do something like, this may be a stupid question, but if you are not going to sell your land, you can't sell your land for 5 years, but you'd get a tax break on it or something, because people like that, they don't want to sell. They'd like to live here till they die and work here till they die, but they maybe can't.
I don't know what the legalities of that are. I mean, that would be something we would have. I don't know. Yeah, that would be tough.
North Carolina doesn't have a homestead exemption. I think that's kind of what you're thinking, but that would be a state. They would have to change the Machinery Act in order to allow us to do it. So it wouldn't be something that this board could unilaterally make that decision to give a tax break. That's just illegal. You have to go by the Machinery Act. So,
I'll give you an example. If you're living somewhere next to Mountaintop or on Whiteside Cove Road that's close to High Hampton, what are you going to do? Your property value is going to be 600% higher than it was, but you're not going to sell it anyway. You don't want to sell it. You was born there, raised there. You want to stay there. You're going to have to sell it. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen.
Well, even down, I think of people in Upshur Cove, when you go out that area, there's a lot of generational pasture land that's been passed down for years or generationally. But I just don't know where the cutoff is. What dictates a person that's generational? Is it 1 generation, 2 generations, 3?
Well,
and that's kind of where I would say we need to. It would be hard for us legally to do it that way, mainly because we get our powers from the state, and the state is setting this millage rate in action. We just choose to do it more often, so that it's not quite as large of a hit. Like Macon County goes every 4 years, or Tabitha, you may be able to explain it a little better than I am, that they wait longer for a tax increase. That's why theirs swings so much higher and lower, whereas ours are a little bit more frequent. We do a multi-year, so every 2 years, isn't it?
4. It's 4.
4. So what was the other one? What is Macon still 4? Or do they go?
I think they're on 4 right now. Yes.
Okay.
We kind of had some weird times there where we switched
Between-
to longer periods, but I think that they're back on 4 now. I'm pretty positive. I mean, it's in place to do a shorter cycle to try to eliminate a lot of that real big shock and awe. But unfortunately, with this market, it's going to be shock and awe no matter what. Now, in most times, though, it does help because if it's you kind of getting little bits instead of this huge, saying 4 more years it's going to be 80%. It's a little bit nicer to get a 40% and a 40% instead of one large 80%. But the way the law is set up with market value and not being able to have different tax rates, it's got to be uniform and all this stuff, it really does restrict a lot of the things that you could do for what you're referring to. Because other states have different processes, but ours says market value, and that really does. I've told them one of the meetings, I have a generational property too. I'm not looking to sell. My grandfather passed it down to us. So I understand that I'm not anywhere near High Hampton type level prices, but that's one of those things, and there's always this thought where people just say, well, you're sitting on a gold mine, but that doesn't necessarily help the people that are in that situation that have no desire to sell. So it is a very double-edged sword. We try to pull those properties out, but they're all influenced by
and that's
those
what
outside
the
sources.
process is for too.
Yeah.
You could always say, listen, I'm not a part of High Hampton. I have no, just because I'm close doesn't mean I'm a High Hampton property or a Mountaintop property or whoever.
Is that an appeal that would be considered?
Well, we just have to look and see what the sales we were using for that taxing area were. Obviously, if you have the neighborhoods, those type of neighborhoods are always separated out. So you go into the more rural areas, Jody Town, I'm trying to think some more, Yellow Mountain, those type of areas. Those are separated out into their own taxing neighborhoods. So that way we're only looking at the sales that are occurring there. We're not looking at mountaintop, but unfortunately, the closer you get, sometimes those sales start to
Well, I mean,
pick
it
up.
sounds like if you
Expands.
look at those areas, and I understand what you were just saying, like the Yellow Mountain and all that, I mean, why would you not just consider High Hampton's in High Hampton?
They are. They are, but what starts to happen is the sales start to trickle out. Then it's more desire. High Hampton starts going in and buying and adding property, and people are, they just keep expanding out. It's just like mountaintop. You want to be here, and then all of a sudden they just keep expanding out. It becomes more desirable.
Well, I mean, I
It's
understand
different.
that, but if High Hampton does buy, and say you had a generational property, and this is High Hampton, and they bought over here and bought your generational property, then that would be part of High Hampton.
Correct.
Well, then that still should not affect his generational property if he lives beside him, just because he sold out.
Right. Yeah. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it. The sales start to expand out, and that's where you see a lot of the value start to sway. Because if you start, say you're on Yellow Mountain, and all of a sudden somebody comes in and pays, $100,000 an acre for this piece of property, and it's not next to Mountaintop or Trillium or any of these other developments. It's just out there, because that's what a lot's happening right now. Is that people are starting to buy those properties because they can't afford. They can't afford to live on Mountaintop, but they can afford to live, outside of there. And so those people are coming in and buying those properties, and that's really what's driving up the property value in those areas. It's nowhere near the High Hampton. I mean, the High Hampton values alone, I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't tens of the millions of the added amount, because those lots are selling for $2.5 million now, 1 acre lots.
Just got all that redone.
Yeah. So, no, I'm not saying we try to group them together, but it's just this trickle down effect where it just keeps expanding. And when people can't afford something, they expand out to find something they can afford, but then they sometimes still overpay for what that's worth, and then that drives everybody else's up. So maybe you have 200% increase in High Hampton, and you only have a 20-30% increase in Yellow Mountain, but that's still a large increase for those people.
All I'm saying is we're killing ourselves on affordable housing. If
We don't have affordable housing.
If this continues for another 6 or 8 years, how can anybody that's a working person afford to live anywhere on that end of the county?
None of my employees can. There's nothing my employees can buy. So, yeah.
So it's a problem that's we're going to face it.
We've had a lot of people come in during COVID that, sold properties in New York or wherever, and they got a huge amount of money, and they come and they see, well, look what I can buy with this amount. And I mean, it's good for them because they can buy a whole lot more, but it is really affecting our real estate market.
You look at the county breakdown, percentage of increases, and you can see that it's not just us. If you look at the table, there's counties that are 150% increases and higher. It's just, I don't know what their median values are. They may be much lower, but it definitely is felt across the state. I mean, it's not a localized problem.
Yeah, I think we're in the top 10. North Carolina's in the top 10 most popular states at the moment. I can't remember what the chart was called, but it's a lot of people want to be in North Carolina, and that's just, it's driving everything up, unfortunately, for those of us who are trying to stay around. But that's just, like I said, that's what the law requires us to do.
California, because I think that's where everybody's moving out.
Cheap land in California.
You can still homestead in Alaska.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
We do have very high values in Jackson County. I can tell you that for sure. But
It's like, you said you're on a generational property. You don't want to sell. If somebody offered you enough, you probably would,
it depends on what they wanted to offer, I guess.
Well, that's what see.
I mean, I get, and that's the thought process that they have. Almost everybody would be tempted for the right price.
John.
for some people.
Yeah.
No, I'd have
So
to
like,
beg to differ with that statement. You can buy anything if you got enough of it.
Edgecombe County has 150,000 or 150% 5-year change, but the median value is $187,000.
But that's still a shock for those individuals that, I mean, 150% when you're talking about,
Less than 200,000.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
big. It's a big change for them. Even Clay, you look at our neighboring counties. Clay is at 479 as a median, with a 71% change. Macon is 762 with a 96% 5-year change. I mean, it's just all around us. Is,
yeah.
I mean, you got the lake,
Well, yeah.
but it's definitely something that's been there, and it'll continue to be a battle, and that's why we're here.
On the other end of it, if somebody appealed and said, I just bought 5 acres at $20,000 an acre, $100,000 last month.
Yeah.
But my appraisal is $40,000 an acre. How could that be? How could that
I
be?
hope that's not going to be the case, but if it was, it just need to, we just look into it more.
That's something that
Yeah,
would be
absolutely.
definitely appealable.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. I mean, anybody can feel anything. We may not agree with them because we have the information that says that it's otherwise. But that would absolutely, I mean, if you had a sale and it was a true arm's length transaction, now, of course, if it was a foreclosure or it was between relatives or something like that, that's probably not going to be a good indicator of that sales price. But if it was on the market, like I said, I hope we caught that because that's what we're doing right now, is trying to catch all these sales. But that would absolutely be something someone should let us know. If they've got it listed for sale and we have it listed for more, we've got it assessed for more than they've even got it listed for. You sure let us know. You got it, you got a fee appraisal recently. Let us look at it and see. The only bad thing about fee appraisals is sometimes is that they give us an older one, and then sometimes we realize, oh, we've got your square footage wrong, or we didn't have your basement finished, and then people get really upset when we increase the value. But that is one of those things that can happen too if we determine something we have is wrong. Some people want the value to be increased. We have that too. Usually they have it for sale, but some people want it increased too. So, but yeah, it's just going to be one of those very shocking reappraisals because it is going to be big. 2008 was also extremely large. It may have been a bigger percentage than this. I can't remember what that amount was, but it was large too. But we had all of those developments coming in that kicked it up too.
I've started selling.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we had a lot that came to fruition, but then we had a lot that didn't. That's where you have the Hampton Springs and the River Rocks and the even Water Dance. Then it started to come back a little bit. There was a bunch of paper subdivisions and started subdivisions that never got finished, and there was
that was because of the crash.
That's what happened, yeah. But it was people had just started doing all that, and then the economy crashed, and so they just paid $350,000 for a lot in a subdivision that never got done, and was worth pennies on the dollar really to them at that point, maybe $5,000 if they were lucky, and that happened a lot. Yeah, and that one. Those people that had just paid that, they had to pay taxes from 2008 to 2016 on that amount. So.
That'd be tough to swallow.
Yeah. That's a tough pill to swallow. But that's how the system is set up. You know, once you lock it in, and it's beneficial when the market's going well. It's not necessarily beneficial when the market's going good. So once we lock it in, the market goes up 20% next year. Your value's staying the same for 4 years. So it's an interesting system that we have here in North Carolina, and the whole reappraisal system is very interesting. But we do our best to look at every sale and make sure the values are as accurate as we can make them. But there's always things we're not privy to, always something that we could have missed. So I just recommend if you think that we got something wrong, just to let us take another look at it, make sure we didn't miss something. Because again, our goal is to make sure your assessed value is correct. That's our whole goal. I don't want somebody feeling like they're paying way more than they could ever sell a property for. But also, some people don't know how valuable their property can be.
It's
in that
all
same
worth what
respect.
somebody's willing to pay.
That's right. Yeah.
You never know when you got a gold mine. Sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. So, all right. If you get any more questions, please let me know. We're trying to get everything finalized right now. So, and then we'll send those notices out and we'll look forward to the calls. All right. Have a good evening.
Mr. King, you want to talk about the aquatic center?
Yeah. You kind of alluded to it a few minutes ago, but looking at the operational needs of the aquatic center, he had on task to do 45 part-time positions, and I think we're at 29,
31 currently.
31. So basically, we've got as many people as we can get, and so he's come up with an option that I would definitely support and recommend that we look at. It's not increasing the budget total at all for the aquatic center, but it's increasing the amount of full-time positions versus part-time positions. And he's requesting to put 5 full-time positions, and then he would have enough part-time to kind of fill in and make it more sustainable. So that's what we would be presenting at the next meeting. Going to add anything? Is that kind of the gist of it?
No, yeah, the biggest thing is it's not going to be sustainable to try to think that we can keep 45 part-time lifeguards year-round. As much as you guys can see that if part-time workers are going to call out on a regular basis, they're not going to show up for shifts. We had 2 call out this weekend already, first weekend that we're open. So with that being said, it's not going to affect our operational budget. Those funds that we would add for part-time guards would transition over to full-time positions. So we'd go from the need of having 45 part-time guards to the need of 12 to 15 part-time guards. By adding those 5 new positions, it would guarantee that we would be able to mirror the operations of our current hours at the facility.
So no budgetary movement, just step and.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good plan.
Yeah, if we want to have consistent hours long term, I think we need to consider that.
When would the full-time job start?
We would, as soon as we would have approval from the board, we would post those
Be the
positions.
next meeting, and then we'll post it.
You know where I'm going with that. You know where I'm going with that.
Yeah. Questions regarding that, I can help with. Okay. You guys are gonna get tired of seeing me.
Thank you, Mike. Any other business to discuss this evening? Mike's gone, so we're good. All right, with no other business, I'll seek a motion for adjournment.
Make motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. You're adjourned.